Creating realistic portraits isn't just about talent, it's also about using the right materials. Over the years, I've tested different tools and even made a few of my own to find out what actually works. In this video, I'll walk you through every material I use, explain what each one does, and even show you some DIY tools that can save a lot of money while still delivering professional looking results. Whether you're a complete beginner or you've been drawing for years, these are tools I genuinely recommend. And by the end of this video, you would know what you need and what you can skip to create stunning, realistic portraits. Because I genuinely believe that you don't need to break the bank to create a masterpiece. So take notes and let's get started. Firstly, I use a mechanical pencil mainly for my initial sketch because it produces clean, consistent lines without needing constant sharpening. It's perfect for laying out proportions and fine details. HB pencil, which is perfect for light sketching and planning. Its balanced hardness makes it ideal to create construction lines that are easy to erase later. A 2B pencil is slightly softer, making it perfect for adding darker outlines before building deeper value. Next, we have graphite pencils, which are my main shading pencils. As the numbers increase, the graphite becomes softer and darker. I use them to gradually build depth, create smooth transitions, and achieve realistic shadows. Instead of pressing harder with one pencil, switching between different grades gives me richer tones and a better control over contrast. It also helps me avoid damaging the paper by using the right pencil instead of applying too much pressure. I can always build up darker values gradually, which gives me more control and a cleaner finish. One thing I love about these pencils is that they also help me make my own graphite powder. Instead of buying pre-made graphite powder, I simply rub the soft pencils, especially the 5B and 6B, against fine sandpaper to collect graphite dust. It's a simple DIY method that works really well, gives me a steady supply of powder whenever I need it, and honestly saves me a lot of money without compromising the quality of my drawings. And graphite powder is just perfect for backgrounds and skin tones. The next tool I use is a blade or a cutter. A blade is much more than just a sharpening tool. I use it to sharpen graphite and charcoal pencils to extremely fine points for a detailed work. It's also very useful for scraping graphite or charcoal into powder whenever I need it, because a properly sharpened pencil gives better control and cleaner details, especially around the eyes, hair, and other intricate areas. I also prefer using a blade because it gives me more control over the shape and length of the pencil than a regular sharpener. The next tool we are going to be talking about is a charcoal block. Charcoal blocks produce rich deep blacks that graphite simply can't achieve. They are excellent for creating dramatic shadows, increasing contrast, and making portraits stand out with stronger depth. I mainly use them for the darkest areas of my drawings, like deep hair shadows, pupils, and areas with very little light. But note that a little goes a long way, so apply them carefully and blend them only where needed. Another tool I use are the charcoal pencils, which combine the darkness of charcoal with precision of a pencil. I use them for defining the darkest areas like hair, eyebrows, pupils, and clothing. They help create bold contrast while still allowing controlled detailed stroke, which makes them one of my absolute favorite tools for realism. I use 3 different grades: soft, medium, and hard charcoal pencils. Ironically, soft charcoal is the darkest and is perfect for achieving deep blacks and strong contrast. I usually save it for the final stages of a portrait when I want certain areas to stand out. The medium charcoal pencil, on the other hand, gives me a balance between darkness and control, making it ideal for general shading. It's my go-to option because it blends smoothly while still allowing me to add definition without making the portrait look too harsh. Then we have the hard charcoal, which is lighter and holds a sharper point for longer, so it's great for fine details, crisp edges, and lighter shading. I often use it for subtle textures, individual hair strands, and refining facial features. And of course, charcoal pencils help for my next DIY trick: charcoal powder. Charcoal powder is perfect for creating soft, dark shading over large sections of drawing. And I said I was definitely going to put you guys on DIY tricks. So for my charcoal powder, I use charcoal pencil and a fine sandpaper to get my charcoal powder. Because like I said, you don't need to break the bank to make a masterpiece. And besides, it's always easier when you know you can readily and easily make something from what you already have. Using a brush allows me to build smooth shadows quickly while avoiding visible pencil strokes. It is especially useful for dramatic portraits with strong lighting. I also love using it as a base layer because it blends effortlessly and helps me build rich, realistic shadows. Another DIY tool is my homemade mono zero eraser. Now, instead of buying an expensive mono zero eraser, I made my own DIY version. It works almost the same way by allowing me erase tiny highlights with precision. This is incredibly useful for drawing individual hair strands, skin texture, eyelashes, and other fine details that makes a portrait so realistic. And again, making it myself saved me money without sacrificing the quality of my work. The fine tip lets me remove graphite or charcoal exactly where I want, so I can create clean, sharp highlights and bring more depth and realism to every portrait. So if you are an artist on a budget like me, this is definitely one DIY tool I would recommend trying. And you need to trust me when I say that you'd be absolutely surprised by how well it actually performs. The next type of eraser we would be needing is our kneaded eraser. The kneaded eraser is one of the most versatile tools in portrait drawing. Unlike regular erasers, it can be shaped into any form, allowing me to leave graphite gently without damaging the paper. I use it to create soft highlights, lighten shaded areas, clean up mistakes, and even add realistic skin textures. Since it leaves graphite instead of rubbing it away aggressively, it keeps the paper surface smooth for further shading. All I have to do is to knead the eraser properly to have a pointed tip so that I can use it easily. Now, as you can see here, I'm gently dabbing the eraser instead of dragging it across the paper. Now, what this actually does is that it lifts just the right amount of graphite while keeping the shading smooth and natural. And also, I can reshape the eraser whenever I need a finer point or a broader surface, just depending on the type of effect I am trying to achieve. It is especially useful for bringing light back into the portrait, refining facial features, and erasing subtle transitions that make the drawings look more lifelike. Another type of eraser is the electric eraser. An electric eraser spins rapidly, making it incredibly effective for creating bright, sharp highlights. I use it for catching light in the eyes, adding shiny hair reflections, and producing crisp textures that would be difficult to achieve with a normal eraser. It saves time while giving cleaner results. As you watch, notice how easily it removes graphite with very little pressure. Now, that level of precision allows me to place highlights exactly where the light naturally hits, making the portrait look more three-dimensional. I also use it to refine edges, clean up small mistakes, and bring back details that may have been lost during shading. It's one of the fastest ways to make drawings look more polished and realistic. The next tools are brushes, which are essential for blending graphite and charcoal powders smoothly. Different brush sizes help me control where the shading goes, whether I'm covering large areas or blending tiny details. They create soft transitions and eliminate harsh pencil marks, giving the portrait a more realistic finish. I keep a variety of brush sizes because each one has different purpose. Larger brushes are perfect for covering backgrounds and broad skin tones quickly, while smaller brushes let me blend around delicate features like the eyes, nose, and lips without affecting nearby areas. I also use gentle circular motions to avoid streaks and create smooth, even gradients. The next tools are blending stumps, which are one of my favorite tools for refining details. They are tightly rolled paper tools that allow me to blend graphite and charcoal in small, controlled areas where a brush would be too large. I use them around the eyes, lips, nose, and other delicate features to create smooth transitions without losing details. They help soften pencil strokes while maintaining the texture and realism that makes a portrait look lifelike. Now we have white charcoal pencil. A white charcoal pencil is mainly used on toned or dark paper. It efficiently adds bright highlights that makes the drawing pop and helps create strong contrast, especially in portraits with dramatic lighting. As you can see here, I'm applying it to the areas where light naturally falls, such as the forehead, nose, cheeks, and a few strands of hair. Rather than covering large areas, I build up the highlights gradually using light pressure. The next tool is one of my absolute favorite DIY. It's a gel pen, but here I am using a Tipex, or what we know as a correction pen. For the brightest highlights, I sometimes use a gel pen, which I'm replacing here with a Tipex. They are great for adding tiny reflections in the eyes, sparkling jewelries, or final highlight details that need to stand out. Since these highlights are permanent, I use them sparingly and only at the final stage of the drawing. A few small touches can instantly make the portrait look brighter, more realistic, and full of life. The next tool is a pencil holder, and as basic as it sounds, it is very important. A pencil holder lets me continue using pencils even when they become too short to hold comfortably. It improves grip, reduces waste, and ensures I get the maximum use out of every pencil. The next basic but important tool is the paper tape. Paper tape secures the drawing paper while creating clean borders around the artwork. Combined with a ruler, it helps achieve straight edges and gives finished portraits a neat, professional presentation. The next tool is also one of my favorites, the sketch pad. As basic as it sounds, for the longest time, I believed that I had to have a certain type of paper to get the kind of art I wanted. But there was always a problem. It's either the paper isn't readily available or it was too expensive. So I decided to start using normal sketch pad anyways. And trust me, the quality is still top notch. A good sketch pad holds graphite and charcoal better, allows smoother blending, and withstands repeated erasing without damaging the surface. And I was able to get just that without even spending so much. The final tool is a sharpener. Now, as basic as it sounds, a good sharpener is very important. That's because a good sharpener keeps your pencils ready for detailed work, because a sharp point gives you clearer lines, better shading control, and more precision. While I often use a blade for extra long points, a reliable sharpener is still an essential everyday tool for every portrait artist. These are all the materials and tools I use personally for creating realistic portraits. And remember, you don't need to own everything before you start. You can begin with the basics, improve your skills, and upgrade your tools as you grow. If you found this video extremely helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll definitely see you on the next one. Bye!